Are you looking for a life of freedom and flexibility? Do you want to have as much success with your family as you do in business? Here in the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast, we break down the barriers and bust the myths that are keeping you from living your best life at home and at work. You deserve a thriving family, rich faith, and business success. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast.
The world of travel. We all want to do it. It's a large, beautiful world out there that's just waiting to be explored. But maybe you're like us and you have young kids. So how do you approach traveling with kids?
It's not possible.
It's not possible? Don't do it?
Or is it?
Or is it? So if you're an entrepreneur and you're a family man, and now you've got this extra time in your schedule, and hopefully your finances are growing, freedom and flexibility are key values that you have. And travel is a lens into the world. It's a way to connect with you and your family and your spouse. And so we want to talk today about travel, and especially how do you create stress-free travel when you have kids? Now, Michael, you mentioned something about, I don't know if it's a philosophy you have or whatever, but talk to us about traveling with kids and what that could be like in the context of, did Jesus travel?
Well, there was an ancient teacher who once said, we must become like little children. And believe me, that person has never been on a plane because traveling with kids is just rough, okay? My wife and I have one goal when we get on an airplane, and
Survival.
that is to take away all valid reasons for other adults to complain about our kids. And we even I made a quick list. I'd love to share it with the audience. These are the things that are valid reasons why other people could complain. Okay, number one, tearing hair out of a passenger's head from the seat behind them. Okay, you can complain about that.
It's not going to happen to Chris or me.
Hey!
Said the guy with hair.
not being me or Chris.
I know you guys can't see these other two guys, but they are bald as cue balls. Love you,
Ooh.
fellas.
Bald and beautiful.
Thank God we have good shaped heads.
Yes. Number two, stealing hot coffee and dumping it on their legs. Number three, screaming that leads to hearing loss. Number four, removing the emergency exit door during the flight. Number five, tripping people on the way to the bathroom. Number six, any sort of public urination or defecation. Now, everything else, I expect you to be gracious and flexible. I'm really trying here. I'm really trying to make this thing work with kids on the plane. And, it's a real test of character.
Mm-hmm.
We really should put elected officials on an airplane with kids before they are elected.
To test their character.
Good test, right?
Yeah. And a couple of those things on the list, Michael, I think have actually happened in the last couple of weeks with you and Lydia with your kids. Right?
Pretty close to it. My poor wife was stuck on a runway in Houston for 3 hours with two kids under 3 years old, and she is 6 months pregnant. And one of my kids had to go to the bathroom. He's in the middle of potty training, so he had his big boy undies on. And so my wife is by herself. I'm not with her. And she had to drag a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old to the bathroom and jam her pregnant self, into one of those tiny bathrooms on the back of the airplane. I don't know. I mean, she's a rock star. I don't know how she pulled that off. Yeah. What not to do, though? Don't put yourself in that situation.
Then didn't you book a last-minute flight and go bail her out? She was stuck there at night?
Yeah, that's a little later part of the story.
Yeah, you showed up on your horse to rescue the beauty.
The knight in shining armor comes to the rescue.
You kind of put a wrench in the relationship with me and Ruthie after she heard that story. Now she's like, you hang out with these guys, you need to be saving me like that.
Well, we all make each other better, right? That's how it is.
That's right. Well, and that's part of it. We've all got our stories. We've all got our pains of air travel. I mean, I have one where Jesse is our oldest, and he was 20 months old at the time, and we wanted to go to Italy from the West Coast. Now that's a long, long way to go with a little toddler. And by the way, just before we left, we're like, oh, I've heard of some kind of medication you can give kids to make them drowsy, right? And they'll sleep 9 hours on the flight. It'll be great. So we call in, and the nurse is like, yeah, here you go. We'll just prescribe this like kind of drowsy formula. And, you really should test it, though, because there's about a 7% chance that it has the opposite effect on kids. We're like, oh, well, we forgot to test it. We get on the plane. We're a couple hours in. He's doing fine. He just, he's a little kid. He wants to move around and stuff. And so we give him the little truth serum, whatever it was. And we're like, okay, this is going to work, right? He got rowdier and more energetic. And he just, this is a red-eye flight. So all the adults there just wanted to sleep. Alicia's trying to sleep. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to take turns. So literally for hours on this flight, we're taking turns just walking him down the aisles. He's like wanting to run. He's high-fiving people. He's waking some people up, of course. But literally up and down the plane, to the point where about half hour to landing, I'm down the aisle for the umpteenth time with Jesse, and this old guy leans over and he goes, "You should ask for a refund. You've walked halfway to Europe."
Oh, it's a great
accent,
like,
Chris. Buddy, that is how I feel. I want to strangle this kid right now.
On one of the last flights that we were on, my youngest Giovanni, who's 5, he's like the extrovert and the wild man out of the crew. But he was just like kicking this guy's seat. I don't know if you guys have got that look. It's the look of death from a passenger. And you just want to say things that Jesus wouldn't want you to say to that person.
I might have said some.
And we fly Southwest, so you can't tell the person to go buy a first class seat because they're all the same,
Oh man, I go right to the confession booth when I get off at the next.
That's right.
I have murderous rage for people who protest about my children on a plane.
Yeah. Hey, go get your own private plane and fly if you don't want to be around kids.
Exactly.
That's right. It makes us feel better anyway.
So what can we do to make these trips better? You guys got some tips for me? Because it's really hard, right?
Yeah, it sure is. One thing, if you have younger kids, this is how you can get an idea of how much we've flown with our small children. I have something called a meltdown kit. It has every stopgap measure that can prevent an all-out just explosion from my child. It includes their favorite snack in abundance, their favorite show or device or some sort of screen to look at, their little blankie that they like that helps relax them. And if all that stuff doesn't work, we do have an auxiliary tranquilizer as well that we'll pull out.
Get the pedals on them. Clear?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. We've got similar. And so for kids of various ages, you got to be age appropriate. But the funny thing is I was just asking my oldest son here about this particular topic. I'm like, so what would you say? What would you recommend to kids? He's like, well, you need to bring some schoolwork, keep yourself busy and entertained for a while. If your kid's like him, he loves to read, bring a book or two. We have the whole snack thing. Lollipops. Okay, by the way, lollipops work really well at our sucker because guess what? They're busy just doing that and their mouths are closed. So some lollipops are good ways to do that. We do the whole screen thing in limited use. In fact, I've got a story there. We just came back from London a couple months ago. And by the way, in the Niemeyer household, we don't watch much TV. So our kids, if they get to do a movie a week, that's a big deal. So they're kind of screen deprived, not when it comes to travel. That's our secret weapon. So I don't know if I'm the good dad or bad dad, but there was this flight from London. And we were just kind of tired. We'd been go for weeks. And we just let the kids here's your headphones right when we got on the plane. You can watch what you want. Noah, my second, he stayed up the entire 10 hours. Wow. And he was just like this in the airplane watching movie after movie to where his eyes were blinking so long and hard that he just wouldn't go to sleep. But he was just engaged. But we never had to worry about him on the plane. It was great.
Do what you have to do. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different things you can do too. So with little kids, a lot of what makes them upset is their ears pop, right? So anything that you can do to get them chewing or moving their jaw to kind of loosen up their ears, that is key as well. You'll be taking off or you'll be busting through the clouds and all of a sudden your kid starts freaking out. That might be one of those reasons.
Totally. Jamie, what do you guys do? What's something that's a practical tip, especially for air travel?
Well, my wife is awesome. She's got her own version of Michael's bag of tricks, if you will. But we had the same kind of thing, Chris, with the screen time. It's 20,000 feet in the air is international territory, so we don't really have the same standards. Especially on these trips that are longer with layovers, we try to manage the kids' energy so that when we're in an airport and there's time to stretch their legs, like that is when the kids aren't allowed to be on a device or watching a little DVD player or something. Yeah, you want to keep the kids happy and well-adjusted, well-fed, obviously, because they get cranky if they get hungry, and you got to bring lots of snacks. The big thing that we try to do with the Slingerland family is that when we leave our house, we start a vacation right away. We're not waiting to get some destination to have fun, and so we try to have a lighthearted spirit of fun. And so travel, you got to have a sense of humor because you get that look of death from little old ladies that forgot what it's like to be kids, or little old men, or grumpy middle-aged people that they don't want to be bothered on their trip. Our kids are watching what we're doing. We need to be a good example, and we can't say those things to people that often cross our mind, right?
Absolutely.
Or just say it without their earshot,
Yeah. I think another important thing is leading up to, before you leave, you want to make sure your kids and you are getting plenty of sleep. You have plenty of nutrient-rich foods in your body, plenty of vitamin C, because you do not want your kids to be sick when they're flying. That's pretty miserable when that happens. I mean, they say on a plane that oxygen will flow freely through the system, but really we know it's more like pathogens will be flowing through the plane at your convenience. I call planes sickness spreaders.
Right.
Because you get on there and whatever those 45 people have, or how many ever people on the plane have, you're going to get a shot at getting that too. And not only does it spread throughout the plane, but you're spreading it from one part of the country to another part of the country, right, or overseas at the same time. So really rest up, try to get your immune systems up and strong before you take a flight.
And do you guys have a problem ever getting dehydrated when you travel?
Yeah, that's the number one recommendation that we gave it even to our travel clients is drink way more water than you think you should and lay off on the coffee, because there's something that happens with our bodies, right? We need to hydrate more in that space.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And also just breathe. Like sometimes things are going to
forget to do that sometimes. I just forget.
Me too.
Do you have any triggers for that?
You look a little blue right now. Are you okay?
Well, that's why we take ourselves so seriously during these times of stress. That's why I think that people have to chill out and know that you just can't control the environment when you're out of your own space, especially airports and the dreaded cancellation of flights. All the stress that goes, oh man, I don't even want to talk about it.
Hey, here's a resource I know that Michael has used, and one that I highly recommend is there are a couple of different credit cards out there that give you membership to these lounge passes. So
that's the one that Dave Ramsey recommends, right?
Probably. It's probably on his website.
Recommends that one.
But seriously, there's a couple of different credit cards that we have, and it mitigates those long layovers, those crazy delays. I mean, we've been in some awesome airport lounges around the world that actually have a kids room. Like we had this one in Panama, and it had like beanbag chairs and a Wii and books and like stuff for like little, barely toddlers. And like that was the best 4.5 hour layover ever because they were super entertained. Like we each took naps. It was fantastic. So that's another thing. And even if you don't have that, there's an app called Point Inside. And it has an internal map of every mall in America, every airport in America. And you can go and search for, is there like a kid's playground? Is there a kid's play area?
What's that app again?
Man, I'm going to write that down. Chris, you can hold it out on us.
That could be a resource for the week.
Hey, Point Inside. There's a lot of good airline apps now that are becoming better with their own internal maps, but that's a good resource.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a goal to grow my business so I can afford to have somebody go on a trip with us. Imagine taking a babysitter with you on a cruise ship or to help out with the kids. But
that's impossible. Way too expensive.
I know. Any of you guys ever did that before?
It's not as bad as you think. So I feel almost kind of weird sharing this, but that actually happened. I won a cruise, right? I won a cabin, a family of 5 at the time. And we had to get another cabin anyway, because you can't fit more than 4 in a cabin. So I was like, all right, this is going to be a pretty cheap vacation. And we have this babysitter who's been with us for 9 years. I mean, since our littlest was in diapers. She's like part of the family, never travels. And we were like, you know what? I wonder if Serena would want to come. Well, so we sat her down. She was ecstatic that she got to go on a cruise for the first time. We didn't have to pay her because she's like, I just want to go to a cruise with you guys. And we set out the plan and the schedule in advance to where we gave her time to get away and go have fun. We had times where we got to, just be the 2 of us on a date while she was watching the baby. And it was awesome, guys. Do it.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You said a key word there. You planned ahead, though. You didn't just grab a babysitter and say, come with us. You sat down and you worked out your schedule, and I'm sure that brought a whole lot of peace to your trip, made it more enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's probably kind of our last point too, right? Is anticipating each day of a trip, planning in advance. Jamie, you and Ruthie, talk about this for a minute. You and Ruthie have like even a spreadsheet or document that you guys share together before the trip, right?
You have a spreadsheet, Jamie?
I thought you were allergic to spreadsheets.
Sorry, Chris, you're trying to put me in your 3 box there. Any of you guys who know the Enneagram, spreadsheet is like kryptonite to Superman for the 7s on the Enneagram. But but in all seriousness, we've done this several times before we go on a trip. Is that we open a Google document, we go into 2 different rooms on our laptops, and we kind of have a date where we just kind of dream about what we want to get out of the trip, who we want to see, what our main intent of the trip is. It's kind of like a compass for knowing what you're really trying to accomplish on these trips. And I find that a lot of the stress that happens, if we go back to what our purpose of the trip was, we can kind of chill out a little bit and relax. Because a lot of times when we want to travel, we just want to get away and see beautiful places, connect with friends and family. It's not like we have like a big long list of things we need to do besides hang out and chill,
Yeah. Guys, don't ruin this opportunity to enjoy traveling, right? Don't take that red-eye flight to save $50. Don't try to squeeze you all into this tiny space because you save a few dollars. Spend a little bit more money, invest a little bit more in the vacation, splurge a little bit so it's an enjoyable process for you. Because if you rush into this, you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth about traveling. You're not going to want to bring your kids. And these are the times when you have some of the most amazing memories with your children. So don't let that happen to you.
Absolutely. It's the whole, what's that saying about planning and failing, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Which my wife kind of hates that term, by the way. But would we talk about like these that. 7s don't like that? Shoot, you guys don't like it either. All right, well, but we just talked about how you guys anticipate at least, right? And that's not what I'm saying here. Don't plan out every hour of your day of a vacation. No one's going to enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But know in advance. Okay, where are there possible stress points? Where are there possible points that the kids could be waiting and getting antsy? Like, for example, right? So we have our morning routine in a hotel room if we're all together. The kids are once one kid's up, everyone's up, right? It's just kind of the way it works in hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. And and we'll give Alicia plenty of her time to get ready. And so it's like, all right, the kids could either be like jumping on top of the TV or climbing the curtains, waiting for mom to get ready, or dad could just go take him outside and run around, and we'll meet mom when she's ready, And sometimes it's just those little tiny things that matter, where it's like she has time to do what she wants to in quiet and peace, and the kids get to go burn off some energy that they need to, because once their eyes are up, man, it's boom, it's kid time. So you got to think of those kind of things, right? Giving each other breaks, like giving each other breaks on a vacation, that's also key. I mean, yeah, you want to spend this great quality time together, but Jamie, every once in a while, don't you want to do something that where Ruthie can get away?
We do that all the time. Absolutely. Because why not look for a win-win, right? Chris, you have 4 kids. We have 4 kids. Doing stuff together is a challenge sometimes. And, Ruthie loves to stay inside. Sometimes on a lot of the trips we go to, we rent a house on Airbnb or VRBO. And it's a great time to take a kid out on a date or send Ruthie to the mall to get her nails done. I know Alicia likes to get pedicures and manicures. Michael, is your wife a pedi mani girl?
Absolutely. She's a Texas girl. She loves that sort of thing. Yeah. I'll send her out there.
Yeah.
Get that done whenever I can.
Those are like deposits in the bank account, right? To send your wife out.
Yeah, no,
totally.
Yeah.
Then you just need a break, right? Of everybody all being in the same space for all the time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've traveled with our kids when they've been young, and so pretty much we'll keep that normal routine of like naps, right? And I love my naps too, by the way. I'll do that. We'll do that together as a family. But oftentimes, Alicia will be like, "Hey, I'm totally happy to stay back here and nap with the kids, and that'll be my time to go like get a good workout in, or if we're at the beach, like go surf for an hour, or whatever." Just like it gives that space that you need to each of you rest and recoup from being 24/7 together when you're on vacation. Sometimes you just need to have a little break and a little peace.
That is so good. And take advantage of opportunities that, because you're in that place, you won't have when you're at home. So what can you do here that you can't do at home that you can also bring your kids into? Maybe it's a climate or a body of water or some really cool scenery that they wouldn't be able to experience. But those sorts of things, they're going to remember about this trip and take those stories back with them.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I don't know if there's some people listening who, you're starting to get to that spot where you're going to be able to travel more. You haven't up to this point. And just remember that these little wins on the next trip you go to, it's going to make doing it again more possible for your family, because it's kind of like exercise, right? You start off all flabby. You don't really know how to do these systems, and you're just moving along trying to make up best practice as you go. So give yourself credit to just try to do a little better every time you go. Guys, to be honest, it is like the perfect environment to grow, because you're in an environment where you can't control everything. And so I think that's where families can take their relationship to another level, because you're bringing on a bunch of circumstances that you wouldn't have if you're at home.
Yeah.
And to be flexible in front of your kids and to have a good attitude when things don't go well, it's a really great teaching environment. And that's another thing that me, Michael, and Chris always talk about this, is that we want to go to these places so that our kids can explore the world and have extraordinary experiences. And so there's just so many benefits to get out of your comfort zone and really risk traveling and going places that...
It's getting to that, I mean, you guys are talking about something that's really kind of mindset driven too, right? Is travel and exploring is a mindset. A vacation is kind of this idea that we have in corporate America, like, oh, I better take my 2 weeks vacation. And it's almost, I mean, number one, barely people enough use it, but people who are just focused on vacation just to get away, like they're missing the whole point. I mean, Jamie, you and I with our school age kids, like travel, like we literally call it world school.
Yes.
Like the world is a classroom, and the kids are around this new stuff. I mean, new languages, new food, new currency, and they get to just learn and talk about that. Like what's different from back home? I have this travel quote that I love from Seneca. And he talks about how travel and a change of place impart new vigor to the mind.
Yes.
And it's just like, I mean, that can happen at a young kid's age. And so don't, like you guys said, don't miss out on the opportunities to teach and instruct your kids and see this whole world through their eyes too. Because you're going to learn something. I've totally have on trips.
Yeah, this past year, we've done so much international travel. Ruthie has family in Puerto Rico, and then we spent over 2 months in Mexico, like 3 weeks and a couple weeks in Puerto Rico. But
I started calling you Senor, by the way.
Senor. But it was really funny. Last weekend, Ruthie went out of town for 3 days to a conference, and Giovanni came to me, and he said, "Poppy, what country is Mommy in?" And the world is becoming smaller to our kids because we say yes to things that are really tough, but look at the reward on the other side. It's really cool.
Yeah. I think another important point, too, is not to look at travel with kids as your great escape from life. If you're going in thinking, oh, this is going to be a relief from my everyday grind, I can get away from it all, find peace and relax. Don't set that expectation on yourself. You're going to be crushed and so disappointed. You have to go in knowing that there's going to be some challenges along the way. You're going to hit some snags, but that's all part of the adventure, and you are making memories that are going to last literally a lifetime for your kids. Be easy on yourself. Like, know that you're going to hit these difficult spots along the way. Give yourself a little more flexibility. Go to the airport a little earlier. When you get home, don't try to dive right back into work the next day. Give yourself a little bit of buffer when you re-enter into life, and take that time to plan and to come up with a vision that makes this thing more enjoyable and not so under pressure with high expectations.
Those good, Mike.
Good words to close on.
And that's probably a great place to take this plane down for a landing.
I love it. Hey,
man, this ship is sinking.
We want to leave you, speaking of ships, we want to leave you to think about travel with this quote from Mark Twain. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover.
Thank you for listening to the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. For show notes, resources, and to connect with us, visit www.entrepreneurialfamilyman.com.